Hello there, it's Jen, the professional explainer, coming at you with another Wordy Wednesday, and today I wanted to give you all of the tips in my arsenal to help you edit text more thoroughly and effectively. Now, we've all been there, where we've got a piece of text we've written that's going to be read by the general public, important prospects, or someone who you're trying to get or keep on side. However, we keep reading through it and we keep finding typos or errors that your word processor has decided to ignore in its infinite wisdom. Alternatively, you may not feel like you're a natural writer, or you may have conditions that affect your writing, like dyslexia. Whatever your situation, I hope some of these tips for becoming a better, more thorough editor will help. Number 1, keep your end goal in mind. If you're the kind of writer who finds themselves going into too much detail or pulling at or expounding on the thematic threads willy-nilly and generally oversharing, you'll likely find it useful to refocus and recenter on the end goal of the text. What is the exact scope of this document? What information is essential and what's just nice to have? What questions do you need to answer? What points do you have to persuade people on? Looking at your text through this lens might help you realise what part of your texts are essential and what parts are a little bit surplus to requirements. Number 2, take a break. A lot of professional writers swear by treating their text like a good steak. You need to let it rest before you start cutting it up. I realise this might not be particularly great advice if you've got a looming deadline, but if you're able, downing tools and going for a walk, or even leaving your work overnight and editing with fresh eyes in the morning is something that I've certainly sworn by in the past as a professional writer. Number 3, eliminate distractions, especially wordy ones. Now, this one might just be me, but if you're in the habit of working with music or a podcast playing in the background, this might help you. Switch the playlist to some non-vocal music or just switch it off entirely. Editing is quite a focus-heavy task, so I recommend doing so in relative silence, whatever that looks like for you in your life, or with some quiet, non-vocal music in the background. Sadly, that means no podcasts for my pod addicts out there. Number 4, read your work out loud. This one can be really useful, especially if you read it out loud to someone else. When I do this, I find it easiest to spot a bit of a run-on sentence here, or identify a metaphor that's outstaying its welcome there, or simply uncover missing words and common typos. And if you do read it out loud to someone else, especially if it's someone who's interested or invested in the topic that's being talked about, they may have some constructive input to provide too. Number 5, take care with statistics, numbers and dates. It's all well and good poring over the words in your work, but numbers often do a lot of heavy lifting in professional writing, especially when it comes to report writing and persuasive writing. It therefore pays to double check that they're right. Personally, I've always been far more proficient with words than numbers, so I always double check anything numerical to make sure that I'm portraying that statistic or that fact correctly. Number 6, change the way you look at your work. Now, if you've been plugging away at a document in your word processor of choice, say in size 10 Helvetica font, for the entirety of that document's life, your brain is naturally going to become accustomed to those words in that setting. And that's not always great for spotting little mistakes that often slip through the cracks. So one way to address this is to simply copy and paste that document into another word processor. This comes with the added benefit of using that other platform's own error and spell checking measures, which might identify issues that your usual software has missed. To make the document seem even more different, you could even play around with using different fonts, text sizes, or even different page or screen layouts. Another way of changing the way your work appears to your brain is to simply print it out with double line spacing, grab a red pen, and edit on paper. I find that I look at a document very differently when it's an actual physical object in meat space rather than just a document on a screen. Number 7. Invest in an editor's dictionary. Now, this is just a quick one, but as a British English writer, I swear by my copy of the new Oxford Dictionary for writers and editors. It's not so much about the definitions and more about getting the spelling and styling right. So if you're often wondering whether a certain proper noun starts with a capital letter, or whether certain terms are hyphenated or not, or even a spot of spelling here or there, this type of reference book is a gem. Number 8, eradicate passive voice. When you're writing in a professional or academic setting, lots of people will tell you to avoid the passive voice. It often makes sentences longer and needlessly complex compared to the more direct active voice. To give a quick example of active versus passive voice, compare the active "I'm doing the housework" with the passive "the housework is being done." One tongue-in-cheek way to tell whether a sentence or sentence fragment uses the passive voice is to add "by zombies" at the end. If the sentence still makes sense, chances are you've used the passive voice. For example, the housework is being done by zombies. Now, passive voice isn't linguistically wrong. It's just something you should probably keep to a minimum in order to maximise clarity. I found an awesome passive voice detector that I'll link down in the description. Number 9, know when to stop editing. Now, this can be a tough one for my fellow perfectionists, but sometimes you just need to know when good enough is good enough. I know that the advice "done is better than perfect" offers cold comfort sometimes, but it is true. Continuously nitpicking a document means that it's never actually done. It sort of becomes open-ended and then you can't progress on to other things. If you're watching this video, you're likely already a fastidious writer and you care deeply about the writing that you do. If you write similar documents on a regular basis, say that it's a monthly report or a regular blog that you create, you could try making a note of how much time it takes you and strive to keep a reasonable average every time you come to complete that writing task. That's it from me for today. I hope it was useful. Please let me know if you enjoyed this longer form video content down in the comments. Like, subscribe and do all of the YouTube things, and I'll see you in the next one.